Support Name Explain on Patreon for ad-free videos, exclusive podcasts and blog posts, and to help choose what names get explained. Click the link in the description. Nicknames are a pretty universal concept. At the most basic level, they are names we use for each other that are not our actual given names. The term nickname itself actually has a pretty interesting story behind it. Despite Nick being a nickname unto itself for Nicholas, the Nick in nickname does not relate to any particular Nick, I'm afraid. Instead, it comes from the Middle English word of eek. Originally, these were called eek names. This word of eek is pretty old too, meaning things like to increase or extend or add or to supplement. This is because these eek names were supplementary / additional names. The oldest recording we have of this term comes from 1303, so they by no means a new concept, that's for sure. Over the years it seems eek evolved into nick. There seems to be a couple ideas as to how this happened. One idea is that eek evolved into ick, which then evolved into nick, while another idea says that over time the phrase an eek name was misheard as a neek name, and from here we got nickname. Whichever is the case, it is clear that nicknames have been around for quite some time, and I don't think they'll be going away anytime soon. Also, we still use eek in this way today, with the term to eke it out, meaning to increase something. We all have actual names, well, hopefully we all do anyway. So if we all have a specific word to signify ourselves, then why do we use nicknames too? Well, there's a few reasons as to why we have nicknames. One of the key reasons is due to affection. Nicknames have become a key way in which we show relationships with one another, and can even signify how well we know one another. Take the name Joshua in example. Someone called Joshua may only be called that in the workplace or in important documents. To their friends and family, they may simply be called just Josh. Maybe their partner has an even more intimate name for them, like Joshy Washy or something equally gross. Names tend to become very public knowledge, so nicknames like this allow our names to remain private and personal in one way. Another reason may simply be because we don't like our actual names. Someone may not like their name of Isabella, so prefer to go by Izzy instead. Fun fact, I'm actually the opposite of this. I'm not too much of a fan of Pat. If you happen to ever see me, just call me Patrick instead. I accept Paddy too, I suppose. Anyway, also, another simple reason we use nicknames is simply to make things less confusing. There are almost 8 billion people on this planet, and there are not 8 billion names. This means people can have the same name often, and this can make things confusing in the workplace and with friendship groups at times. E.g., if two Emilys work at the same place, one might be known as Emma and the other might stick with Emily. These are just a few reasons as to why nicknames exist and the purposes they serve. Nicknames come about in all sorts of ways. They don't actually always have to relate to your first name. Some people are given nicknames based on a certain quality of themselves or something physical about them. Take Honest Abe, as Abraham Lincoln was known for his honesty, or even the singer Sting. He was given that nickname as he was known for wearing black and yellow striped jumpers, like a wasp who, well, stings. Though by and large, nicknames do in fact come about as alterations of a person's given name. There are so many ways in which you can use the letters and sounds a first name presents us with, and thanks to this reason, most names actually have a few commonly known nicknames, though I said most for a reason there. While most names have natural nicknames, not all do. From what I could gather online, names such as Claire, Owen and Ruby have no natural well-known of nicknames. I am not saying that everyone with these names has not got a nickname, but creating a nickname from them doesn't come particularly naturally. If you happen to have any of these names, please let me know down below if you have a nickname. Also, this video is focusing on the English language, its names and its nicknames. Please let me know about some nicknames from around the world down below too. Anyway, back to nicknames. Undoubtedly, the most common way in which we create nicknames from first names is by simply shortening the first name / using just a handful of its letters. We've already highlighted a few of these, such as Pat coming from Patrick, Josh coming from Joshua, and Nick coming from Nicholas. These examples all use the first 3 or 4 letters of the first name, but these kinds of nicknames do not always have to be from the start of a name. Some nicknames come from the latter part of their first name. Take the name of Rebecca and its nickname of Becca, or Xander, the nickname of Alexander. An example I really like comes from the actor Topher Grace. His actual name is Christopher. While this name is usually shortened to Chris, he decided to use the latter half instead. Some names can actually have nicknames created from the middle too, like how we get Liz from Elizabeth. Elizabeth unto itself is a super interesting name as it can be split in so many ways. The start, middle and end are all considered nicknames, Eliza, Liz and Beth, though there is some overlapping between Eliza and Liz. Nicknames are made by and large to be shorter than the actual name they come from. This is why a lot of them are formed by simply removing letters from the initial name. Sometimes, however, we do not only remove letters, but add and change letters too. We mentioned how Rebecca can become Becca, however it's also often shortened to Becky. Likewise, we have Deborah, which can become Deb, which is also changed to Debbie, or how Jonathan can become John and then Johnny, Eleanor to Ellie, Robert to Robbie, and so on. This is something known as hyperchorism. This is of Greek origin and means to use child talk. Comparing it to child talk is very helpful in explaining what exactly hyperchorism is. It's when we add extra syllables to the end of names to make them sound more friendly and affectionate. In English, the y/a suffix is most common, like we saw with names such as Johnny and Ellie. They're also known as diminutives. Some sources say hyperchorism and diminution are one and the same, while other sources say they are different things, with diminution being a word you can apply to all kinds of words, while hyperchorism only applies to names. Whatever you want to call it, it's a very popular way of creating nicknames. In Middle English, people not only shorten their name to create nicknames, but change them in a rhyming fashion too. It's through this means as to where some of the more unique nicknames come from. The kind of nicknames that make you scratch your head. Ever wonder why Bill is short for William or Bob for Robert? It's because these names were shortened to Will and Rob, and then the rhyming convention was applied to them to create Bill and Bob. A more infamous example is how Richard became Rick and then Dick. This happened before Dick had a certain other meaning, however. We don't tend to see this kind of nickname formation too much when new nicknames are being formed, but they have clearly had staying power as we use many of these nicknames to this day. Shortening, hyperchorism, and rhyming are the three key ways in which we make nicknames here in English. However, what's really cool is how we can use multiple of these conventions to create one nickname. Take Robbie in example. This uses the shortening of Robert into Rob and then hyperchorism to turn it into Robbie. We even take this one step further and turn it into Bobby, which uses shortening, hyperchorism, and rhyming, all three in one. Same applies to Billy from William too. These nicknames and the way we can blend conventions easily highlight something I love about language, and that's language's ability to allow us to do pretty complex things rather easily. There's a lot going on linguistically when you call someone Billy instead of William, yet our ingrown knowledge of language allows us to do it seamlessly. Maybe I'm just too much of a word nerd, but it's something I really dig. Something else I'm sure you've already noticed is that a lot of these names have way more than just one natural nickname, like Elizabeth being Liz and Beth and Robert being Rob and Bob. This has left me wondering what name has the most nicknames, at least here in English anyway. Well, there seems to actually be a few contenders for names with the most nicknames. Ones that come up often were Elizabeth and Alexander. As well as the ones already mentioned for Elizabeth, there's also the likes of Lizzie, Libby, Lilibet, Betty, and Eli, just to name a few. Likewise, Alexander not only has Alex and Xander, but names like Ali, Lex, Lexi, and Alexi too. Other contenders, well, according to the HuffPost anyway, included names like Genevieve, William, Roderick, and Catherine. Though the name that seems to take the cake for having the most nicknames, at least the one I think takes the cake anyway, is the traditionally female name of Margaret. I feel a lot of people, myself included, may see Margaret as something of an old lady name, so I was shocked to see that it's still pretty darn popular. In 2020, it was the 126th most popular girl's name in the USA. While it's down from its peak in the 19th/20th century, it's still immensely popular and is even on the rise again. It seems to be a name with a pretty simple meaning too, simply meaning pearl, coming from the Persian word for pearl, Margarita. And before you ask, while we aren't too sure, there does seem to be something of a link between this name and the drink. Thanks to the spelling, letters, sounds, and syllables this name has, it's been able to be formed into so many different ways. A lot of these nicknames have come about from these aforementioned conventions of shortening, hyperchorism, and rhyming, so I won't go into too much detail about all these nicknames. Some of the more obvious nicknames Margaret has given us include Maggie, Madge, Marge, Margie, and Margot, just to name a few of them. Like I said, we don't need to go into too much detail with these ones. Through what we've already discussed, I'm sure you can see how Margaret turned into Maggie and these other names. However, some of its other variations are not as obvious to us. Like, did you know Meg actually began life as a nickname for Margaret? How we got Meg from Margaret took a few steps. Margaret got hypercoronized into Maggie, which then got rhymed to make Meggie, and that was shortened to just Meg. From here, Meg took on a new life as the name Megan too. By now, Megan is actually its own standalone name away from Margaret. However, most sources point to Megan meaning the exact same thing as Margaret. Pearl. It's also thanks to this Meggy route as to where Margaret got one of its more obscure nicknames from too, that being Peggy. People are often perplexed as to how Peggy became a nickname for Margaret. Well, follow the same path that got us to Meggy, but instead use some rhyming to change the M into a P and we have Peggy. Did you know that Rita, Greta and Gretchen are all somewhat considered nicknames of Margaret too? These nicknames come from the German form of Margaret, Margareta. I'm sure from this name you can see a tad more clearly how they could be considered forms of Margareta. Greta and Rita are practically hiding at the back of these names, and Gretchen is seen as a form of Greta more specifically. Like Megan, a lot of these nicknames have also become first names unto themselves. Though perhaps the strangest nickname of Margaret is Daisy. How on earth did this happen? Well, Daisy does not come from any of the previously mentioned nickname forming conventions. It does relate to the flower, however. In French, these little flowers are called marguerites. The flowers were named after pearls in French as their white petals were thought to be like pearls in a field. The name in French is considered a first name too, and as it links with the English name of Margaret, it has allowed Daisy to be considered a nickname of Margaret. Strenuous, I know, but that's how it goes sometimes. I wonder if this means that we can consider Pearl a nickname of Margaret too. If we do, that gives us so many nicknames for this name, and I haven't even included them all. I'm sure you can see why I and others consider Margaret to be the name with the most nicknames. Let me know some of the other Maggie nicknames I may have missed out on, or even let me know about any other names that you may think actually have more nicknames. Thank you to all my patrons who support Name Explain on a monthly basis. Patreon is vital to Name Explain, and donating just $2 a month allows you to enjoy ad-free videos and bonus Patreon exclusive content. It also allows you to help choose what names get explained in upcoming videos, and gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you so much for all the support you guys give Name Explain. Thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. Check out another video and subscribe to stay in the loop on all things Name Explain. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram where I'm Name Explain YT, and also join the Facebook group Friends of Name Explain, both of which will be linked down below. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.